All right, you're very welcome back to the programme. So we mentioned on the programme yesterday something that was launched towards the end of last year, ChatGPT. And we're going to explain to you precisely what this is and maybe tease firstly, it's like Google on steroids, but so much more, and it's only going to develop even further over the next year, as is AI. So it's something we're going to be talking about in a while, so we want to get in early on the conversation for all of you listening out there. And to help us do so, we're joined by a couple of guests. I'll say good morning first to Jenny Darmody, editor of Silicon Republic. Good morning, Jenny. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's great to have you with us. Right, okay, so for those who've never heard of this, talk to us about ChatGPT. What is it?
So ChatGPT is essentially an AI software tool. It's a text generating tool, and as you said, it is a little bit like Google on steroids. It's very, very advanced, very, very predictive of what the user might want. So you can put in questions and it'll give back quite detailed answers. But you can also kind of if you give it the right prompts, it can generate much longer things, anything from songs, recipes, and essays and things like that.
Yeah, and I have seen some people go, well, I had a look at it, and it's not all that, and it's clear it's this, that, and the other. A lot of it depends on what you input as to what it outputs. And I've read some comments from some people that know an awful lot more than me, and when the information of what you want out from it is inputted in a certain way, there are some that find it difficult to differentiate between it and the work of a human.
Yeah, so it has become very, very advanced, and it's designed specifically to sound really conversational, to sound really human. But yeah, there is still bias issues that come into play with AI, and there's still problems. So it can spit back out information that's not necessarily correct, but it doesn't tend to let you know if it doesn't know the answer. It tends to spit back the answer as best it can in a very confident way, which brings dangers of misinformation and things like that, and especially if it's being used in a sort of a content generation way, and that stuff isn't being fact-checked, that can lead to serious problems.
There's different views on the plagiarism element to this, because it doesn't necessarily, my understanding is, and I'm open to correction on this, it doesn't cut and paste paragraphs per se. It seems to be more, it interprets it more. So it is possible that whilst, on the face of it, it would be plagiarism, that it might not be as easy to pick up compared to someone cutting and pasting an article themselves from the internet into the work for college or for school, for example.
Yeah, so essentially it is a language model, and it's learned how to react and behave based on massive data that's already on the internet, and that's basically where the plagiarism element is coming in, because it's learning from language and information that's already out there, and if it's piecing together enough of it from different sources, it can sort of circumvent those plagiarism elements, because people who tend to copy and paste, the plagiarism software is designed to spot those kind of sentences that are lifted directly, and if it's spliced together, that's how it can kind of get around those issues.
Yeah, and of course too, I suppose we ourselves, depending on how AI advances, do we really have many original thoughts? We ourselves are taking bits and pieces, be it consciously or subconsciously, and creating a piece of work, albeit not be able to be picked up by software properly. So, as I say, this is the first iteration really of it that we've access to. I think later on in the year, it's going to be able to access live information. I believe at this point it's working off a block of information in the past. Do you see this? I also read from one academic that said this is the death knell for universities if they don't change. So, do you see this as a positive tool for education? In other words, if it's embraced the right way, or perhaps maybe it skews everything? Will every piece of work that's produced now in months and years to come be suspected of being from ChatGPT? Do you know what I mean? How do you see this fitting into education, especially as it evolves?
There definitely is already, there's a lot of concerns in the academic community, I think, around this. And I think there's already several researchers and developers who are working on sort of plagiarism tools for things like GPT. They're looking to design these tools to actually detect whether or not it was created by an AI tool. So I think those tools will come more to the forefront. I think the biggest concern really is, as you said, you could argue that there might not be original thoughts anymore, but I think students who might put a direct prompt the right way into an AI tool and asking them to write a critical essay about something and getting their homework done for them essentially removes the problem solving, the critical thinking that comes with creating an essay like that, even if it is just a case of doing the research and finding other people's thoughts and putting together. That's how people kind of develop their critical thinking. So I think that is a big concern. But there are other ways it could be used. I've heard of some students or teachers have used the AI to create an essay based on, a particular topic and then given it to their students and asked them to take it apart and critically assess that themselves. So it could be used in positive ways.
All right, we're also joined by Professor Kevin Curran, a regular guest on the show. He's a professor of cybersecurity at Ulster University. Professor Curran, good morning to you. Great to see you again.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, what's your take on this?
It's a powerful tool. It's been around for a while, but it's because they've released it to the public. Now, Google also have a similar system as well, and that caused headlines a few months ago where one of their researchers came out and said that he believed it was sentient, that he believed...
I think he was sacked for that, wasn't he?
He was. So again, we're seeing this because it's been released to the public. Now, if you try and go online today, or even last night, I was doing it again. The site is oversubscribed. Actually, the site is not working for it's too many people on there. But it's just we've just kind of gone to a new level really with a tool which is being released to the public. Again, which really comes back with quite good answers whenever you type something in natural language.
But this is a huge. Do you think, maybe I'm overstating, I actually believe this is going to be not necessarily ChatGPT in its current form, but in terms of what it can create in terms of image, music and stuff, and this is really the first iteration we've kind of seen of it. So I think this is, I don't know if you agree, Professor, I think this is really quite a significant, or it will be seen as quite a significant step forward in technology, at least front-facing that we can see.
It is. I mean, obviously, it does one thing. What it does, it enables us to interact with a computer, which actually seems to be a human, and that's what it does. So therefore, it has consequences in a lot of areas. Of course, one is that now you can be given a question by a teacher, and you just type the question into OpenAI's ChatGPT, and it comes up with a beautiful essay and whatever else. But there are tools which allow you to get around that, because there are so many cheat sites out there where you type in a question and it literally has all the answers from the previous ones, because examiners around the world and lecturers. And
I think this is the creative element, though, that is. I think this is sort of stepping into.
We've reused questions again. So even there's a photomath app, system where you just take a photograph of your maths question and it comes up with the answer. I mean, there's tons of like that. So yeah. We're dealing with that for a long time. That's why you got to have, well, not creativity. You got to form your questions properly so that they're not searchable on the internet, and that's what we have to do. And of course, we'll have tools to be able to see, is this generated by ChatGPT? But this is modern life we're going into again. So we're dealing, and even things like this. I mean, this can be used in some ways in cybersecurity as well to cheat people, to have people phone up and seem that they're dealing with someone legitimately and giving the right answers, and it enables operators to do more. So in other words, it's kind of we're into a new era.
Yeah.
Computers sounding like humans.
And Jenny, it's clear that Professor Curran and his university are well across this, what I mean, and quite rightly so, you'd expect it. And the reason partly to also I kind of wanted to have this conversation is that I think there's an awful lot of people in education, maybe not at third level or wherever, that may be not familiar with this or what its capabilities. So they, I think I'd be of the opinion that I think everyone in education should know about things like this, so that they can either use it as a tool or, be able to find some ways to sort of spot if it's being abused by students, if you could call it abuse.
Yeah, and I think if you're going younger as well, there was a discussion. I read an article with teachers who talked about it, but they were mostly from the slightly younger, not college age kids. And probably one of the easiest things that they could spot was that the language was far too advanced. So like a 9-year-old might not write the word tumultuous when they're writing an essay or things like that. So there are spots, and as Kevin said, there's cheats and workarounds that have been around for a long time, long before AI was being used. So teachers and educators, I suppose, are well above looking for these things. And, not everybody uses plagiarism software. So, teachers tend to have an eye for, this looks a little bit suspicious. They might not know why straight away, but they know it looks suspicious for some reason. And yeah, I do think that they should be aware that this tool exists, but also not hide away from it completely. As I said, it could be used in a clever way to sort of introduce this to students and explain why this stuff, humans still need to be in the loop and things like that. So I think it's a good way to introduce them to it, because it's not like children and kids won't grow up knowing this tech.
Just to broaden out a bit, Kevin, you talked about for some it could appear to be like talking to a human, and if this was someone's source information, say for example, instead of your likes of a Google, there are already some accusations that this ChatGPT, in terms of the results it returns to you, has political leanings. Now, and no one is in control of this. What I mean is, like, this is kind of open source, or at least that's how it appears. But already there are some suggesting that it favours, it's maybe more left-leaning than right-leaning, for example. I mean, as we move forward in the years ahead and we're engaging with AI, maybe that will become more of an issue.
Yeah, there's ethical concerns in artificial intelligence, for instance. We've known that because, for instance, a lot of AI, artificial intelligence, is used for facial recognition. Of course, yeah, whenever you unlock your phone and whatever else, there's AI in there, and also for databases. But it was found years ago that people of color were unfairly discriminated against because the training sets, again, which were used to train these facial recognition algorithms, were generally made up of white middle-class technology people, again, and it didn't have access to Asian faces and people of color as well. So these things can happen, whether, meant to be or not. An AI tool is only as good as the data that is trained on. And of course, ChatGPT, again, is limited, that it doesn't know anything about the world in the last year, that everything that's been trained upon so far was from 2021 previously. So therefore it's got big gaps in its knowledge about a modern world as well. But data, any AI tool is only as good as the data is given, because to train this ChatGPT as well, there was humans involved in the loop, what we call reinforcement learning. So they typed in questions and it might say, what color is a tree? And if the ChatGPT at the time came out with a nonsensical answer, they would kind of correct it, feed it back in again. And this is called reinforcement learning. So humans were involved in training this, but of course that's only it's kind of like a kickoff part again. There'll be less humans needed in the future.
All right, Jenny, so finally, what do you think then, how important do you think, this or other incarnations of it will be in the future? Do you think it is something maybe, those in education need to ensure they're on top of if they're not already, or is this just a fad or something?
I definitely don't think it's a fad. AI tools like this, it won't be just GPT, it'll be many other tools. And as Kevin said, AI is in everything and it's continuing to grow. So I think it's something that educators and everybody needs to be aware of, because it will continue to grow this year, and many other companies will come up with their own tools. But I think both from being wary of students using it, but also educating students about it is really important, because that bias piece is so important, because it's essentially learning, like it's not sentient, despite what a select few people might think. It's not sentient, it's learning from humans and data that's gone into the internet, which is incredibly biased, as we all know. An internet search can be very biased, and even when you're searching questions, you get bias reinforcement of your own thoughts and things like that. So I think there's a lot of education that could be done here for students as well, as they move forward into a world that is surrounded by AI.
Jenny Darmody, thank you so much indeed, editor of Silicon Republic. Where do you think this sits in terms of our lives going forward? Finally, Kevin?
It's a huge step for mankind again. But also, Microsoft have a tool called Valley, which synthesizes voice. In other words, with 3 seconds of audio, it can replicate your voice. So therefore, if you have 3 seconds of my voice, then you just type away, and actually you can actually sound like me on the phone. And this is being used by scammers to phone up people and have money transferred, where the people in the accounts department swore they were talking to their boss. And this is it's in the same field again, really. Again, so these tools are actually quite incredible. In the future, you will have to have passwords on the phone, because you can't trust voice in the future.
Scary. And you still believe our phones don't listen to our conversation and target ads towards us, do you, Kevin?
They don't.
Yes, they do. They do. I don't. Come here.
No, because it's your searches, everything else.
No, I know, but I was talking to someone, right?
No.
I respect your view because you are a professor.
It would look at.
Okay, well, explain to me. I'm speaking to someone, right? I was speaking to someone a couple of days ago who had a blocked ear, right? And I suggested that they went and got their ears syringed. And I'm a critical thinker, don't get me wrong. That evening, now I can tell you, I Google some stuff, but not this. That evening, across Facebook, across all the Meta platforms, I was being fed ear clinic adverts. How could that happen? It's the coincidence of coincidences, Kevin.
But quite a lot you can trace it back even to credit cards, because credit card, we forget that. We think we're being tracked online, but every time you do a purchase with your credit card, that data is sold on, to third parties. So maybe, I don't know, maybe about your again. You're right. But they don't listen because it would be an outcry. Look at the people who work in these companies are like me, they're techies. They can't do it. It would be the ultimate privacy invasion, really. So they can't.
I get you, Kevin. And listen, I'm sorry to finish on such a note after quite an important convo. Lovely to see you again, Kevin. Let's leave it not so long before the next time. Thank you so much indeed. Take care. Paul, sorry, you've been holding there waiting patiently. You were having a look at ChatGPT. What's your review of it?
I think it's excellent. I think it will be used for plagiarism, unfortunately. So Academica will have to work out some way of maybe be more making people be more creative and critical thinking and things like that. But it's another stage up. I created a poem in a minute. Like, for instance, if you said to me, if you gave me a topic, I can do a poem in a minute on it.
Yeah,
I've done a song about Highland Radio. It's just so amazing. So,
well, actually, what we'll do is what I might do next in the next ad break. I will ask it to write a poem about Highland Radio, and after 10 o'clock, we'll read it out and see what it says. I mean, I've spoken to you before about parental alienation. It's something that you're very passionate about and speak out about quite a bit. Did you use it to sort of, try and be creative on that issue? And how would you rate the results?
I rated the result very highly. Very highly. It gave a very good definition of it. Very objective one, I thought. But as your expert said, there could be biases in it, and they will affect anything. But in Google, there's biases. Everyone uses Google every day. In Academica, there's major biases depending on in politics, there's major biases anyway. So we have to be very aware of all them things. But no, regarding the definition and that about parental alienation, for instance, it was very good because it's an area that people will conflict about, All
right. Listen, Paul, lovely to chat to you. Thank you so very much indeed. All right, we'll be back with more after the break.